Welcome, I'm Paul. This is Dave. Today I have 16 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. Let's get to it. Case file number 3009, written by Cinnamon Book 959. The Soldier on the Mirror. So, for context, I got my brand new apartment, new flooring, new paint, new everything about 5 months ago. I've also been enlisted in the army since July, and I do not have kids. Recently I was questioning myself a lot because I was not sure if I was willing to go into the army or if I was keeping my actual normal job after my service contract ended. So I did what I do best, going to the gym and lifting some heavy weights. When I go to the gym, I always do push-ups, but this time, I forgot to do them at the gym, so I told myself I was going to do them at home before my shower. And this is what I did, push-up right in front of the bathroom door. While I did these push-ups, I noticed something on the floor, a figurine. It was a figurine of a soldier holding a weapon. So obviously the message was clear, I need to go to the army. But how this little toy appeared on my floor in my apartment when I mopped my floor multiple times and it is new flooring? So again, how? And it was not there the day before, just when I did the push-ups. I live alone. So glitch in the matrix it was. I don't know where it's coming from, I don't know how, and I never had one of these little soldier toys. Since then, the little soldier is sitting on top of my bathroom mirror, as a reminder. Okay, so we have DOP, objects reappearing, stuff like that, but this is so specific and tethered to you. It does seem like maybe it's your guardian angel trying to influence you. There's probably easier ways to do it, but I guess if he wants to be subtle, this is a good way to go about it. There's no mundane way for this toy to have just appeared there unless someone broke in to just leave a toy on the floor that somehow is relevant to your life. Doesn't seem likely to me, does it? So my instinct is that some entity is trying to influence you to stay in the military. Maybe that's important for your life. Case file number 3010, written by Zapatas Guns, The Shower That Wouldn't Stop. I believe most things people would call paranormal have reasonable explanations, but I did have something happen to me I can't explain. I live in a city that has been around and has a lot of history. I was working the night shift as a maintenance engineer in the most haunted hotel in the city. I get a call that a guest's hot water has slowed to a trickle. This usually happened to a single room, but it can happen. I grab a new mixing valve and head up to the room. The lady opened the door and led me to the shower. I started to dismantle it to get to the mixing valve. There is a valve on the hot and one on the cold water line you have to shut off to change the mixing valve. My relief showed up as I was removing the mixing valve. All of a sudden, hot water started spraying me at full blast. I move out of the stream and immediately try to crack the check valves harder. It doesn't help. My coworker runs out and gets a ladder to turn water off to the room. He shuts the valves, but the water keeps coming. Now we're panicking a bit as the room is starting to flood. We turn water off to the entire floor, but water keeps coming. I go into the basement and kill the domestic water pumps as well as the boilers. My coworker calls me over the radio and says, "What are you waiting for? Kill it!" On my way back to the room, the entire hotel is in an uproar about the water being off, but when I get back to the room in question, water is still coming, and this lady's room is flooded. Finally, the stream of hot water turns into a trickle, and my coworker and I finally take a breath. I decided to stay a bit longer to help clean the room. The lady isn't mad at all, she's actually stoked. She was there with her husband on business, but enjoyed ghost hunting in her spare time. She told us she had read about the hotel and booked that room specially because it's inhabited by a ghost that plays tricks on people. After installing the new mixing valve, the shower worked fine, and that was that. I still have no explanation for it. It was fucking weird. Okay, so the only question I have here is, you shut off the water, even the boiler, so even if there was water it wouldn't be hot, and the water kept going. Well, if there's no pumps to pump that water up, there can't be any pressure. Can a spirit induce water pressure? But even then, where's the water even coming from? It's not just inducing pressure, it's literally creating it from nothing. Was the spirit able to connect with your mind, your coworker's mind, the lady that was in the room? Induce the idea of water being there, but there was no actual physical water. Because I don't think Ghosts can just create matter from thin air, right? That's an interesting question. Although this has come up before when someone was saved by apparently someone who had already passed, a ghost. They pulled up in their truck. Did they create the truck from thin air, or did they commandeer it? Just a real truck that they then brought back home or something? Or maybe they stole it from the corner of the street? I don't know. I don't think spirits can create matter, but maybe they can. That'd be even more wild. Case file number 3011, written by I Am Silly, the Patch Between Worlds. Okay, so this was 6-ish years ago. I was driving a little crapbox Honda Civic I had at the time to meet some friends to camp for a night on the full moon. I took a shortcut that was basically a 2-lane road through the Shenandoah Mountains that connected 2 different highways. Mount Weather is up there about halfway through. This isn't really relevant, but it's an interesting tidbit, as there's so many conspiracy theories about that place. I'd driven it countless times before. The fog gets dense up there when it rains, and it happened to be raining right before dusk. I could barely see a foot in front of me. I accidentally took one downhill curve a little too fast on the slick road with iffy tires and overcorrected. I ended up swerving basically a 180 and came to a stop facing the opposite direction on the other side of the road in a patch of gravel on the side of the pavement just big enough for my car to land in. I don't really know how this happened so perfectly, given the fact that I lost control. Instead of driving off the cliff on the side or crashing into a car coming the opposite way, which would have been more likely to happen at the time, I just landed perfectly and drove off with not so much as a scratch on myself or my car, just a couple of brambles and leaves stuck under the front. The weird part about this to me was the fact that I never saw that patch of gravel again. I drove down that road another countless amount of times after the fact, and I knew exactly what curve this had happened at. There was never a sign of any space on the side of the road there. I looked for it every time to no avail. I'm sure this was just a matter of luck and maybe a bit of confusion. At least that's what logic wants me to think. But I can't shake the feeling that I wasn't supposed to walk away unscathed or even alive, or that in some other universe I wasn't so lucky. Well, in this case it wouldn't be quantum immortality because the patch would be in your new universe. That's where you were saved. But the fact that you can't see it again, maybe a portal of some kind? Maybe you were zipped to a different area, and the one you think is similar isn't the same one. Although, you would have then seen it after you left the area where the gravel patch was. Maybe they came back and removed it. But then you would see a sign of that too. So I actually don't have a clue on this one. Interesting. Case file number 3012, written by NoBaby41110, The Hungry Corner. I just moved into my new apartment and it's going well, but little did I know I would be losing so many things. First thing I lost was my charger for my AirPods. My parents helped me move in and my dad has an older phone than me, so I gave him my charger. Before he left, he put it on my dining room table and I woke up the next day and it's gone. Next day, I swear to God, I got my vape out of my purse and I hid it. I put it back in my purse because I was going to the grocery store. I looked down as I'm putting it in my purse right after hitting it, and the pod was gone. Fully disappeared in front of my face. I didn't even hear a pin drop. This was 4 weeks ago. 2 days ago, I came back from class with my vape in my hand like I always do. My roommate even watched me hold the vape with other things in my hand. I set my vape and other things down on top of my dresser. I went out and started cooking lunch. My friends came over to collect things I got for them, which were in my hand with my vape when I came home from school. I go back to my room, and my vape is fully gone. There's a space in my room next to my bed and my dresser that holds my nightstand and my rug, and both my vape and pods went missing in this little area in my room. I swear I've looked everywhere. I've taken my bed apart, my dresser apart, and my closet apart. I looked through the vent on my wall, and I examined for cracks in the floor and my furniture. I obviously have to look some more, but the fact I've had 3 things disappear into thin air in not even a month has me fully convinced there's a portal right next to my bed. I got my mattress topper and bed skirt in the mail today. I have to do some laundry as well. I plan to do a very last extensive search of my room, but I don't expect I'll find anything. Case file number 3013, written by Wolf Writes 89, Clean Yard with No Witnesses. I have 3 dogs and a nice fenced yard. I pay a service weekly to come clean up the dog mess, so I never have to worry about it. They come every Friday, and I always get a text when they arrive and when they leave, so I can make sure the dogs are inside during that time. I'm always here during that time, and I've gotten used to listening to the thwack 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 of the poop being scooped up to alert me to when they're out there if I do happen to not see the text. Business as usual today. I was in the living room and I could see the backyard easily through the sliding door right in front of the kitchen from where I was sitting on the couch. I got the text and I was extra aware today of the timing because one of the dogs happens to be a brand new puppy and we're dealing with a lot of potty accidents. A few minutes after the text, I was listening for the scooping sound and didn't hear it, so I got up and went to look through the door and window. I didn't see anyone out there. It had only been less than 5 minutes and they're really thorough, so it usually takes around 20 minutes or so. That was weird. So I went to look out front. They have a very distinctive truck, painted bright blue and green with the company name on it. The truck was right where I expected, in front of my house, and I didn't see anyone sitting in it. At this point, the puppy had an accident, so I picked her up and took her out front, and I got an even better look at the truck while I let her sniff around. Absolutely no one in or around the truck or in the yard. I actually started to worry that the worker might have gotten injured or something weird on their way from the truck to the backyard, so I went around the side of the house where they would enter, and nothing. Brought the puppy in and checked the cameras that are on the side of the house in the backyard. I used them to watch the dogs, and nothing. At this point, I'm chalking it up to a lazy employee. I figured someone was just flucking off and went for a walk or something instead of scooping poop. I can't totally blame them. The job completed notification came about 20 minutes after the first text, like it normally would, and I am absolutely positive that at no point did anyone enter the yard. I get up and look, and the truck is gone. Again, I'm figuring it's just a lazy minimum wage teenager. I'm reluctantly about to go all Karen and send an email to the company, politely, just to let them know, but I decided to double check just to be sure. Grabbed all 3 dogs and went out back. Like I said, new puppy, so I've been spending a lot of time out there the past week, so I know exactly where all the major poop spots are. They're all clean. I couldn't believe it. I still don't understand it. I went in and told my husband and we both couldn't stop laughing about it. Dog poop scooper with an invisibility cloak? Ninja workers? Time slips? No clue. I'm just gonna go with a glitch. This reminds me of... It's a movie I forgot the name of. I think it has Jack Black in it, but basically, he invented a scooper for dogs or their waste. Or it's not a scooper, it's a spray. You spray it on and it disappears it. But apparently, it wasn't like dematerializing it, it was transporting it somewhere else. I forgot where, I don't remember the specifics. I don't even know if this is a real movie. It might have been conjured in my mind for all I know when I was dreaming. It reminds me of that. Somehow the universe copied that movie or figment of my imagination and applied it in real life for you. Only once though, probably. I doubt this will happen again. Would be cool. That'd be a hell of a backyard. Imagine how much you could sell the house if your backyard just cleaned itself, even from dog excrement. Nah, that could be an upselling point. Case file 3014, written by Cryptographer Hot 6198. Clacking in the dark. So we're just on the couch, watching Master Chef like usual. She'd taken her medication, so I knew she was probably going to bed soon. After the episode, she did her usual door checks to make sure everything was locked and stuff. She can't go to bed without making sure everything is shut and locked, i.e. windows, doors, all that. And then I followed her to the bedroom to lay with her for a little bit while she fell asleep. Not 15 seconds into laying there with her, we hear absolutely clear as day this clacking sound coming from the kitchen. It was loud. I could hear it with my bedroom door closed. It honestly sounded like something with some real weights was walking around my kitchen. So I lock my bedroom door and she calls her friend, and we just hear this thing walking around my house. After 2 to 3 minutes it just stops. I tentatively go out of the bedroom, look around my entire house. Empty. The door is locked, every window shut. I have no clue what happened, but that was the strangest thing I've ever experienced in my life. Case file number 3015, written by Steve Main for Life. A millisecond of light. For context, about an hour ago, I had woken up to use the bathroom, couldn't get back to sleep, and decided to lay on my phone for a while to see if I could find anything to watch to help me sleep. Randomly out of nowhere, this illuminating, almost blinding bright white light filled my room from the doors like somebody was flashing their phone into my room, and it instantly disappeared within a millisecond. The kind of timing where if I would have blinked in that moment, I wouldn't have seen what it was. Mind you, I was not tired or out of it during this event. I was fully aware and awake. And my room is in a setup where there are no windows facing any sort of outside lights, streets, nor would I be able to see lightning. I texted everyone in the house to see if anyone came down. 3 are asleep, and my mom says she never came down here. I have no idea what could have possibly caused this, but it was unsettling and unexplainable enough to have me a bit shaken up. I've never experienced anything like this before, and I've been in this room for over 5 years now. Case file number 3016, written by Gaia Zium. The Last Look Before the Bend. So, this is far from the most eerie thing, but it's the most real. Before the pandemic, I used to ride my motorcycle quite a bit. I started occasionally seeing this black cat staring at me around the neighborhood. One day a black cat walked out in front of me a mile from my house, stopped in my lane, and did 2 360-degree turns. Then it proceeded to go back into the tall grass it came out of. I thought it was awfully strange, and it held me up long enough that I almost had to stop. It had been a few weeks without seeing it again, and I went to leave on my bike. My street is an unmarked public drive and it's L-shaped, but there's no stop sign at the bend, and at the time it was an overgrown corner. I'm leaving on my bike about 100 yards from my house, and that black cat is sitting on the side of the road staring at me. I ride up to it and the bike doesn't scare it away, so it keeps staring at me with its soulful eyes, and I start talking to it and asking questions. "What's up, cat? I keep seeing you around." Mostly just entertaining myself. And then a full-size flatbed truck came flying around the bend at exactly the time I would have been there, and I'd have nowhere to go on the bike. I'm 100% convinced they would have run me over if it was not for stopping to talk to this cat. I think I thanked the cat and rode off to get out of the way of the truck, since I was in the middle of the street. I haven't seen this cat since. Again, I feel like this is a guardian angel interaction. Why they feel the need to be so subtle is an interesting idea or a question, because I think these guardian angels have the ability to slow down time, manipulate objects, like if a bullet is being fired, they could tap you out of the way like Quicksilver in the X-Men movie. So I think they're very powerful. It's like GMs in a video game where they have the ability to fly around and manipulate pretty much everything in it in real time. So why be so subtle? Is that like a rule of their employment? They can only be subtle? It's almost like Gandalf coming to Middle Earth. Yeah, he's a god, but he's not allowed to use most of his power. Can only like guide and influence. Feels that way with guardian angels most of the time, unless there's like exceptional, exigent circumstances. Then they can use more of the power. In this case, just pretending or taking over the body of a cat so you would see it, stop, and avoid your untimely fate. And then it goes into another question of why does it even matter? Okay, you die, you go to a different universe via quantum immortality, so why would guardian angels care? Is there a reason we need to be in specific universes? It certainly evokes a lot of extra questions that I just can't answer. Case file number 3017, written by Metal Chick Fit. The Feathered Intruder. I lived with my sister and her boyfriend when I was 18. I stayed in her illegal bedroom in the basement that had no windows, just a box. Best we could do at the time. I came home from a night with friends. The house was empty for the weekend, so I was alone. I admit at the time I was very unhealthy, so there was tons of garbage and wrappers all over my floor from binge eating. I liked to keep my room locked so no one would see it. That night I came home to the empty house, went to bed, and locked the door of my bedroom. The next morning I hear my sister calling me as she came home and woke up as she came to my room and opened the door. Thought it was extremely weird since I remember locking the door when I laid down. She turned the light on to wake me up and talk. I looked up at the mess on the ground and saw a living, breathing duck at the foot of my bed. Hilarious at first. She thought I must have been super drunk or something and did something stupid. But nope, I was dead sober. To this day, I have no idea how a duck got into a room with no windows and a door locked from the inside. We ended up bringing it outside. 12 years later, and my sister still remembers the story as clear as day, and I thought for the longest time I was remembering it wrong or making it up in my head. Quack quack. Yep, I got nothing. I guess a portal? Yeah, we know dogs and cats can port around. I guess ducks can too. But why inside your room? Is that just a random happenstance? Must just be a random fluke. It's certainly not intentional. Or maybe this is your guardian angel taking the form of a duck. Maybe guardian angels like to interact with the people they're intended to care for. Like a bodyguard growing a certain affection for their protectee. Case file number 3018, written by That One Insomniac. When the House Feeds on You. A few years back, we had a 2-story rental house. The upstairs was more of a loft, just 2 bedrooms and the attic. Well, we would hear footsteps coming down the stairs. The stairs ran through our room. One night we snuck through the kitchen to the staircase the moment we heard them, thinking it was my stepson out of bed. We just wanted to give him a hard time. Kids have to pee at all hours of the night. No one was there. The kid was sleeping deep, snoring and all. We then understood why he never wanted to sleep in his room and always tried to be asleep in our bed before we went to bed. Sometime later, he told me about the man in his room. I asked if it ever talks to him, what he looks like, etc. He's just black, all over. He tries to talk to me, but I can't understand what he says. For the sake of this dear, sweet child, we broke our rent-to-own agreement 6 months in, cut our losses, and found somewhere else to live. That house was so full of negative energy, it was insane. Depression on my end was the most severe I've ever experienced, and nightmares constantly, to the point I couldn't sleep. Thought it was just pregnancy hormones and anxiety. Once we left that house, I was never that severely depressed again. Case file number 3019, written by Toss It XX. Shards, Scratches, and Screams. When I moved into an apartment after a breakup, I lived next to this older Indian guy who was really protective, like he'd always check on me. I thought he was kind of daddish, so maybe he thought of me like his daughter? I was barely 21. He'd do things like watch while I take my trash out at night to make sure I was okay. I think now, looking back, it's because he knew that apartment was haunted. It started with small, little things missing. Then one day, while in my living room, my dishwasher turned itself on. The next day, I heard a crash in the kitchen and went in to find various things. A cookbook, measuring cups, a colander, a dish towel, all flung into the same corner of the kitchen. I'd regularly go in to find the lid of my garbage can upside down. I started waking up with long scratches down my chest, almost like cuts. I don't have long nails, and this was before I had a cat, but they were long slices. Then I started finding shards of broken glass outside my bedroom door. I lived alone. There were never any broken bottles or anything. The thing that was the breaking point was me straightening my hair in my webcam in the living room because the outlet in my bathroom didn't work. I leaned in close to get my bangs, and I swear that this sounds so fake, but is so real. There was a skeletal or dead face behind me in the camera. I threw the laptop so fast and had a total breakdown. I did not renew my lease. Yeah, waking up with deep scratches, that's going beyond like UFO abduction, where it's very subtle. This is just, you gotta break your lease, get the hell out. There's no other choice in that case. Case file number 3020, written by Actuary Business 5011. The Thought That Spoke. I'm a very intrapersonal thinker and think way too much about why, how, and when I think of all that stuff. And most of all, I run simulations in my head which aren't horribly vivid, but it's enough to keep me focused. Anyways though, I was sitting passenger side in my mom's car while she drove us home, and at one point, bagels came up in conversation and were making jokes. Basic car convos, right? Eventually it dies down and I just go into my own head and pretend to have a conversation with her about original shoes and then why or why not our legs were the best evolved for transportation. Stupid topic, I know. Anyways though, I know like every other human being when I'm talking versus thinking. And while I'm thinking up this conversation from scratch, I'm on my phone checking my emails and that crap. I don't even feel a remote connection to the person next to me because I'm so focused on the fake conversation I'm having. We get home, I'm getting out of the car. Right as I close the door, she goes, "I'm happy we have cars and we don't have to walk everywhere." And I say, "Oh, I was just thinking that." And she says, "Well, duh, be kind of hard not to." And I say, "What do you mean?" And as if I thought it into existence, she says, "Don't you think about the stuff you talk about?" And I kinda just stop and look at her like someone just shoved their thumb up my butt. For like 5 minutes, I was just standing in the garage. She went inside after calling me creepy, and I'm left wondering, what the fluck? I still have goosebumps while writing this, even though it happened yesterday. Is this normal? Is this an effect? Because I know I didn't say crap, and I asked her a bit about it today, and she's like, "Yeah, no clue why you found legs so intriguing." And I'm stuck at half gaslighting myself in either direction, whether I did or not. So from her perspective, clearly she heard you verbalize these thoughts, otherwise she would be freaked out too. She just doesn't believe that they were only taking place in your mind. So maybe you did mumble them? Some people do think and then they kind of mumble without realizing it. I suppose that's possible. But I also do think telepathic links can occur. Usually they're not so verbally specific though. More of an emotion or gut feeling that you share. Case file number 3021, written by Fair Preference 7763. Sticks, prayers, and smoke without fire. I lived in an extremely small village in Africa from 2016 to 2018. I was 16 to 18. There was a day, summer 2017, where my grandma told me to buy some groceries at a local street shop, and while I was buying some eggs, I heard people yelling like they were arguing. I look and across the street, a lady is being berated by people. They're throwing sticks and cussing her. She looked about 50, a totally normal woman wearing colorful clothes. I was so confused. The lady that was serving me said a prayer and I asked what's happening, and she said that lady is a witch. I look over at her again. She's flinching and covering her face with her hands. I thought I was watching mass village psychosis. And as I was watching her walk to avoid people throwing stuff at her, she disappeared. Like straight disappeared in a blink of an eye. There was no way for her to turn or hide. It was a straight street, and where she was walking had no stores. My stomach hurt from how scared I got. I thought I was going crazy. Everyone started screaming even more and doing prayers. Till this day, I don't know where she went, who she was. I never saw her again. I told my grandma about it when I went home, and she says, yes, she's a witch, everyone knows her. Like it's normal. I always try to rationalize what I see, but I can't. She disappeared on the spot. No smoke, no illusion. That was so scary. Okay, I think the locals are just saying she's a witch because they can't explain it any other way. And you know, for most of history, when we can't explain something, oh, it's the gods, or wizardry, or dark sorceries, witches, etc., burning them at the stake, a very dark chapter in our history there. So, do I think she's a witch? No. But if they think that about a specific individual, they must know her. They've seen her before. This is not the first time she's disappeared. I want to hear from her perspective. Who is this girl? I hope she posts glitch stories too, because she's probably got a few. Case file number 3022, written by Pale Core Friend, A Child, a Litter, and the Knowing. When I was 12, my family cat had a litter of kittens who were all very sick. I stayed up for a week straight, waking every 15 minutes to feed them, make sure they were heated, etc. One of the kittens died on the second or third night, which was very upsetting, but I kept pushing on little sleep. I barely left the kitten's side so I could give them meds, formula, and keep them warm. On the fourth night, most of the kittens were doing a lot better. My favorite, which was the runt of the litter, had put on a good amount of weight. On the fourth night, around 2 a.m., I got up to refill the hot water bottle, and I took the wet tea towel and put it in the microwave on for 1 minute while I boiled a new jug of hot water. As I watched the microwave, after about 30 seconds, I had this sudden knowing that the runt had died. I tried to shake it. I had checked on them all before leaving for the kitchen, and they were fine. I had left the hot water bottle there, and was going to replace it with the microwave towel while I filled it up. I tried to tell myself I've been gone for less than a minute, and I just checked them. There's no way. I grabbed the hot tea towel and ran back to my room, and sure enough, that exact kitten had passed. I tried warming it up and trying to do CPR, but it was gone. It was the weirdest feeling. I had been quite sleepy and monotonous while checking on them. It was all fine and routine, and then I just had this overwhelming knowing, and I was wide awake. Yeah, we get very connected to people we love. This is a kind of telepathy I think really is concrete and exists. You link up with someone else, it could be an animal as well, and you can know if they depart this mortal coil, at least this universe of it. It also makes me wonder, do pets have their own copies of themselves in other universes where they experience quantum immortality too? I like to think so. At least some of them do. I do think there's placeholders. So not every single pet has its soul, but I think the ones that do, you know them very well. Case file 3023, written by Hy-Vee Stuck in the Pit. The Phantom Fold. I would like to start by saying that this incident is still making me scratch my head in bewilderment. It happened 2 nights ago. This is the first time I've personally experienced a glitch. Usually I'm the one hearing about these stories. Well, 2 nights ago, I was hanging out with my roommates and their boyfriends when we all decided to finally call it a night. I went to my room, closed my door for privacy as my room is right off the living room, and walked over to the end of my bed where my pajamas always are. My puppy likes laying on them, it comforts her. That's when I noticed that only my shorts are there, folded neatly, but the shirt is nowhere to be found. I look around the immediate area, thinking maybe my puppy had dragged it off, since she's got a terrible addiction with stealing socks and underwear out of the hamper. Not even 30 minutes prior, I'd walked by my bed to use my personal bathroom and remember seeing the shirt folded on my bed, and my dog had not been in there between the bathroom break and in that moment, so I couldn't make sense of where it had gone. I looked under my bed, all my furniture, in my closet and hamper, wondering if I had thrown it in there and forgotten. I even threw the blankets and pillows off my bed, wondering if it was under one of them. Nothing. I eventually go to my closet to change into a different sleep shirt, exit the closet, and stop dead in my tracks when I see my shirt laying on the end of my bed. I don't know why, but my heart started racing and started feeling nervous. I couldn't make sense of how it wasn't there 1 second, but appeared the next. There were only approximately 15 seconds between going to the closet and exiting. Now before you ask, no, my puppy was not in the room with me when this happened. She was still in the living room with the boyfriends. I have zero logic or rationalization for what happened. I'm glad my first glitch wasn't too crazy and was harmless, but seriously, where the hell did my shirt go? I'm glad I got it back though, as it is my comfiest sleep shirt. Case file number 3024, written by Almost Jaded, Living with George. My ex lived in a haunted house for years with her ex-husband. Cabinet doors would open and close, lights flip on or off. Her hubby would sleep through anything and always told her she was imagining it, but it happened when I was awake and home alone as well. She named the ghost George, and when he was acting up, she would say, "Cut it out, George," and it would stop. One night she woke up to hear the living room TV on. She crept down the hall, and she could see him sitting on the couch. She says she was scared at first, but she looked at him and said, "George, if you're gonna watch TV while I'm sleeping, please turn it down." And immediately the TV turned off and he vanished. Over the next few years, she occasionally caught him watching TV, with the volume down. Her husband never once believed her, never saw or heard a thing, and insisted that she was sleepwalking or something else. He doesn't believe in ghosts. The story isn't over. Cue her divorce. Hubby got the house and she moved to another state. They're still friendly enough. Eventually, she and I are dating. I know all about George. Side note, we briefly lived together in another haunted house with a much less friendly and understanding ghost, but this isn't about that. One night we're hanging out and her ex calls. That's weird. It's hella late where he lives. She answers. He's losing his crap and screaming so loud I can hear him clearly. What the fuck, I saw him. He was sitting on the couch watching TV. Fuck this, I'm selling the house. And on and on. She says, babe, his name is George. He won't hurt you. Just tell him you're trying to sleep and he'll go away. He still sold the house though. Yeah, your wife's ex reacted how I think most people would. Dismissive and skeptical, fair enough, Maybe not dismissive, but skeptical, I understand that. And yeah, finally realizing, oh my god, this is real. Yeah, I mean, at least he was friendly, and it makes you wonder too, if you're a ghost, you'd probably get bored. Yeah, you'd want to watch TV too. Could they wear headphones? They can hold a remote. If they can hold a remote, drive a car, conjure water, why couldn't they wear headphones? Sure, that does happen. Maybe that's going on all the time and we just don't realize because they're sneaky, they're subtle. They put the headphones back when we wake up and they just go about their day, wandering around while we're awake. Now time for the jokes of the day. My wife said, no more dad jokes. They're annoying and she can't stand them. I said, sure, no problem. But one day I couldn't help it, and at dinner I asked, what's the difference between 3 straws and 2 straws? She didn't say a word. She stopped eating, got up, and left. That was her last straw. At dinner, I asked my date if she could see herself settling down with a guy like me. She said she's not sure because she's been a nomad her whole life. I'm like, that's actually perfect because I never get angry either. Whenever I have new people over at my house, they ask me for a Wi-Fi password. I tell them it's on the router, but they keep telling me they can't find it. My brother and I aren't allowed to play with chainsaws anymore. Technically, he's my half-brother. Ooh, that's a bad thing. That is not going to go over well with the parents. My girlfriend crashed the car again today. She told the police that the man she collided with was on his phone and drinking a can of beer. Police said, ma'am, he can do that when he's in his own living room. That's an impressive location to crash into. Video up here, YouTube thinks you'll like it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.